Hello everybody, Joshua with BiPros. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about identifying hard to pinpoint noises on an engine with a decibel meter. Alright, so essentially whenever I'm shopping for a car, I'm looking at a car, trying to value a car, determine what it's worth, I want to be very sensitive to various engine noises. Now when I'm listening to an engine, you want to listen for anything that sounds unusual. And the biggest question usually when you hear something unusual is, hey, am I listening to something that's a noise that's inside the motor? Maybe there's like a rod knock, something really bad internally with the engine. That would be one thing. Or am I hearing a noise that's coming from an accessory of some kind? You know, maybe like a power steering pump or an alternator or something like that. Okay, now sometimes it's hard to identify exactly where the noise is coming from. And there are different ways you can go about doing this. So for example, the other day I was looking at a vehicle, had a noise coming. I was like, okay, it's not internal. It sounds like it's coming from one of the accessories. And then as I listened, I was like, man, I think it's coming from the water pump. And so in that case, what I was able to do was grab my trusty flashlight. And you probably know every video, I almost always talk about carrying a flashlight. So I was able to take my flashlight. I was shining it down in there, kind of listening where I thought the sound was coming from. And sure enough, the front of the water pump actually had some coolant beginning to seep through. And so I was like, okay, there you have visual confirmation as well. It sounded like the noise was probably coming from the water pump, and I was able to actually see some coolant seeping out. Now I couldn't really see it without shining my flashlight down in there. But with the flashlight shining down in that particular engine, I was able to see the coolant seeping out. Okay, so that sometimes works. So always carry a flashlight with you. Now this vehicle we're going to look at in just a moment. There's a noise that sounds like, to me, like it may be coming from the alternator or possibly from maybe even from the fan or the fan clutch, but it's a little bit hard to tell exactly where it's coming from. And so I hear kind of like a whining noise, and I can't get my head actually down in the engine bay close enough, get my ear close enough to the different things to tell exactly where it's coming from. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this decibel meter, and this is just kind of a simple one. I ordered this on Amazon for less than $30, and of course it came with like in a day or two. And so it's got a microphone on there. And what I'm going to do with this decibel meter is I'm going to have the engine running, and I'm going to point the microphone to some different components and look at the decibel reading on there to see where the sound is loudest coming from, and see if that can help me to identify the noise. All right, so in just a moment, I will flip the camera around and kind of show you what I'm doing. All right, let me show you a couple things before we get started. I've got the decibel meter right here. It came in a handy little zipper case. Like I said, this cost me less than $30 on Amazon. There it is. This one's in a nice orange color. They had them in different colors, you know, like a bright green, black, couple different choices. Runs off of 2 AAA batteries. And it's real simple. Just push the on button, turn it on, and get the microphone pointed toward what you want to read sound levels on. And so pretty simple to use. So there it is. We'll get going with that in just a moment. Also, I've got some mechanic gloves here. Why do I have those? Well, we're actually going to do this with the engine running. And so in just a moment, we're going to start the motor up. The belt's going to be, of course, the belt's going to be going. Pulley's going to be spinning, the fan's going to be moving, so a lot of moving parts. Definitely want to be very, very careful not to get my fingers underneath the belt or into the fan or anything like that. So I want to be very, very cautious with my hands. And so I'm going to be very careful, but in addition to that, I'm going to put some protective gear on, wear some nice gloves. So protective gear and caution. And then we'll see what we find with a decibel meter. All right, so let me get geared up and we'll give it a try. All right, so what do you think of the decibel readings? So basically what I did was I put the microphone down close to the things that I thought could be possibly producing the sound. It sounded like the noise was, coming over from this area close to the alternator. But when I put the microphone close to the alternator, it's kind of noisy in that area. But when I went down lower toward the idler pulley, I found the decibel readings were going over 100. They were hitting over 100. The alternator decibel readings never went over 100. The idler pulley, I was hitting readings over 100, and then went down below, the noises started dropping off. So the loudest sound that I was picking up was coming directly from the idler pulley. The great news is, for this vehicle, idler pulleys I can pick up at the local parts store for like about $35, and should probably take just, about 15 minutes to change. Pretty quick and easy, not a big deal. So in this video, I'm actually going to give that a try in just a moment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to change out this idler pulley, and then see if that noise goes away, and see if our technique of using the decibel meter was helpful and effective. All right, I'm back. So I took a couple of minutes. I released the tension off the belt, pulled the old idler pulley off, and put a new one on. Now, when I took the old one off, that's it right here in my hand. When I try to spin it, so I hold the center, try to spin the outside of it, I find it's really rough. It doesn't spin very easily. It feels like, kind of like a sandpaper kind of feeling when it's trying to turn. So I think the bearings have gone bad on this. I think we were correct in what the decibel meter pointed out to us. And so I've got the new one on, and give me just a second, we'll start it up and see how it sounds. Hey, that is so much better. The noise has gone away. It sounds fantastic. It sounds normal like it's supposed to. Awesome. All right, there we have it. A quick, accurate, highly successful diagnosis aided by the use of a decibel meter. Helped us pinpoint the exact location of the noise. Turned out to be an idler pulley that I was able to quickly change in like about 10 minutes. And excellent tool to carry right here.